Hello everyone, Dusty here, and I'm back from the dead for another video for you guys. So for those of you who may know me, I am very into two series in particular. I'm into a, pretty popular franchise known as Umamusame. I really like this franchise because of its very cute and colorful characters. I mean, Phenomena is literally my daughter and she solos fiction. But anyways, I also like this game for its fun gameplay, about the fun little horse girls racing, the gamble aspects to it, and just it's overall just a pretty entertaining mobile game. There aren't a lot of mobile games that I find entertaining, but this is definitely one of it. I am also very interested in the character stories and just the overall story of Umamusame. But I'm also into another franchise, which is very popular. It's known as Dragon Ball. This series I have been watching since I was a child, and I always found it fun for its very epic fights, its cool character designs, and, lots of other reasons. Both of these series are very important to me, as one represents my childhood, which in this case is Dragon Ball, and another represents my interests in the modern day, which is Umamusame. Now, I have made content on these two series in the past. Just look at some of my other videos. Dragon Ball more so than Umamusame, but that's just mainly because Dragon Ball is more relative to the type of content I do. But anyways, as I was sitting in my room playing Umamusame, a funny little thought came into my head. What if I put Gentildonna from Umamusame against Broly from the Dragon Ball franchise? I mean, think about it. They're both incredibly powerful, they're both extremely muscular, and both are, well, more so Broly, but both are considered pretty major threats. I mean, they are definitely way more powerful than their main characters at the time. But anyways, so this funny little thought came into my head about this matchup in particular. I definitely like it a lot more than Gentildonna versus Thrag, but, I digress. So this video is going to be different than the other videos I have posted, because there are so many versions of Broly as opposed to Gentildonna. I'm just going to go through each version of Broly and compare them to Gentildonna. I'm going to be using 3 versions of Broly, which I consider the quote main ones. We obviously have the canon Broly, which is the one from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, but we also have the 2 non-canon versions. The one from the Dragon Ball Z movies and Broly from Dragon Ball Heroes. So I won't hold you guys any longer. The question I will be answering today is, who would win in a fight? Gentildonna versus Broly. Umamusame versus Dragon Ball. I hope you enjoyed this video. Now let's get into what you came here to see. Let's first begin by talking about how strong Z Broly is. Now, Z Broly is a very, very powerful character. In the original Z Broly movie, Broly was able to take on this might of multiple Saiyans plus Piccolo. He was able to destroy nearly all of them when they were jumping him all at once. And these characters include Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, Gohan, and like I said, Piccolo. What's impressive is that all of these characters are arguably above Frieza from the Namek Saga. Frieza, in his first form, was capable of destroying planet Vegeta. Now, this is more impressive than it may seem. Obviously, Frieza's destroying a planet here, but planet Vegeta is not your ordinary planet. It is I believe, 2 times larger than Earth, but it could be bigger, and has much denser gravity. So this feat is actually anywhere from large planetary to even star ranges of power. And Goku himself beat Final Form Frieza in a 1v1 on planet Namek, which this movie takes place after. There was also, multiple statements of Frieza being able to destroy the entire universe in his second form and final forms. However, I kind of think these are both exaggerated. But even if they're not, we don't know the time frame Frieza could do this. Would it take him multiple days to go from planet to planet destroying them? Or can he do it in one big blow? We don't really know for sure, so I'm not going to be using Universal Frieza for this video. But, Broly still has universal scales, but we'll get to that in a second. Another debatable thing about Broly is whether he compares to Perfect Cell or not. I personally think Broly is stronger than Cell, but it's just whatever you believe. Anyways, Perfect Cell is a character who has been stated multiple times to be so strong he can destroy an entire solar system. This is not only stated in the manga, but also Akira Toriyama statements himself, as well as statements from the guidebooks. He, again, like Frieza, has statements of him being capable of destroying the universe. However, again, I also think these are a bit exaggerated. And also, we're not given a time frame, so we don't really know if Cell could destroy the universe in a single blow, or he would have to go from planet to planet and destroy it over time. But regardless, this is still at a bare minimum solar system level scales for Broly. However, he has one feat that eclipses anything Frieza and Cell realistically have been shown to do. In the start of the movie, a vision was shown of Broly destroying the entire South Galaxy. Now, while this was a vision, it's still reasonable to assume that Broly is still capable of doing this. Now, normally, this would be just an outright galaxy-level feat. However, there are statements from the Daishenshus that the galaxies in Dragon Ball are actually infinite in size, which makes them 4D structures. This is kind of consistent with the fact that the universe has literally outright been stated to have multiple infinite-sized dimensions, which would make it a multiversal structure. So having universal structure galaxies does make sense. However, these infinite-sized galaxy arguments can be disputed. However, it is still reasonable to assume that they are infinite in size. So, in this case, Broly from the Dragon Ball Z movies can be scaled to having universal levels of AP and even DC, based on if you want to argue that this is just outright a DC feat. But let's talk about speed real quick. Speed in Dragon Ball is highly debated. However, there is one solid feat that for sure can get Broly past these light speed arguments. Goku in the Namek saga, while on his way to Namek, was able to dodge multiple meteors coming at him, and the speeds of these meteors are anywhere from hundreds of times to even trillions of times faster than light. And obviously, Goku got much faster after these events. So, FTL to MFTL speeds are pretty reasonable for Broly. However, Broly was also able to keep up with a faster version of Goku in the Second Coming, and this version of Goku was able to traverse through the afterlife. We know that the afterlife in Dragon Ball is an infinite-sized structure, thanks to, again, the Daishenshus. So Goku being able to traverse an infinite-sized space would give him infinite speeds. And, well, look what happened when Goku tried to fight Broly. He was easily overpowered and defeated, and Goku never once was able to speed blitz Broly. So, to summarize, Z Broly can reach universal levels of AP and arguably DC based on how you want to interpret the galaxies in Dragon Ball being infinite in size, as well as him having FTL to even infinite levels of speed. But how does that compare to Gentildonna? Well, Gentildonna, at first, doesn't really seem to be that powerful. I mean, after all, she's just a horse girl who likes to sing and dance and wears pretty colors. But I can assure you that some of the feats that come from Umamusame are just outright insane. Now, Gentildonna has been heavily implied to be the physically strongest Umamusame on multiple occasions, and she's even been given the nickname of Gorilla Donna. If we assume this to be the case, which you should, it's been stated multiple times, then Gentildonna should be stronger than characters like Goldship and Phenomeno, who were strong enough to push an entire island by themselves. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. But, however, Gentildonna is far stronger than this. Gentildonna was also able to shatter entire mountains with just her aura. I mean, this is in her ult animation that we see in the games, and this is just pretty crazy. She's not touching the ground or the mountain or anything. She's just standing there and the mountain splits in half. Gentildonna is also stronger than Umamusame like Durandal, which are able to split large storms. Now, the storms that Durandal has cut through, correct me if I'm wrong, have been implied to be multicellular storms, which, according to research from meteorologists, can span out hundreds of miles. So this storm that Durandal was able to split gives Durandal AP from country to even multi-continental based on, whatever calcs you do. And Gentildonna should outscale this. She also just casually one-punched a planet and split it in half in the manga. So, yeah, she would definitely reach higher than island and mountain level on her own, even without excluding Durandal. However, Gentildonna is still above these levels. And it's all thanks to one little character called Marvelous Sunday. Now, just by looking at Marvelous Sunday, you wouldn't really think much of her. I mean, she's cute, she wears pretty colors, just like the other Umamusume characters, and, she's played as this, cute little, energetic little gremlin creature. But would you believe me if I told you that Marvelous Sunday is a multiversal level threat? No, probably not. But here, let me explain this to you. In one of her support card events, she described having control over what's known as the Marvelous Dimension and Marvelous Worlds. And, Dimension and World are swapped repeatedly throughout the series, so, it's whatever. But what else is special about it was that Marvelous Sunday was able to merge this dimension with that of Manhattan Cafes. So she was able to merge two dimensions into one with her own power. Now, just because it's a dimension, it does not automatically mean it's 4D in nature. However, these dimensions have outright been stated and shown to be intertwined with space-time and being 4D in nature and existence. Marvelous Sunday being able to merge these two dimensions together proves that she has control over multiple 4D spaces, which makes her multiversal. And Gentildonna is far stronger than Marvelous Sunday, and should also be capable of doing this as well. Umamusame of all kinds also have the ability to tap into something called the zone. The zone has been stated to be when an Umamusame basically locks in and breaks past their physical limits and physical prowesses. We see this multiple times throughout the manga, and it's also stated by Simbali Rudolph that every Umamusame is capable of doing so. While they're in the zone, like I said, their limits are broken through and their physical limits are skyrocketed in terms of power. The Umamusame are also capable of making their dreams and manifesting them into reality within the zone. And this place has also been called Dimensions in the past, Dimensions and Realms, by trainers in Umamusame as well as Umamusame themselves. So theoretically, all Umamusame are baseline universal because all Umamusame are capable of tapping into the zone. So yeah, Umamusame are a lot stronger than they come off across. But what about speed? It's been stated by characters like Eric Ruve that Umamusame are capable at running around 50 kilometers an hour, which is about the same speed as some cars, which isn't really impressive. But characters like Agnes Tachyon just kind of break reality for a few seconds because they run so fast. Yeah, this is a real frame from the movies. Agnes Tachyon just broke the fabric of reality from running really fast. But Gentildonna is also relative to characters like Neo Universe, who can run so fast that she distorts the space around her. And in her ult animation, she's literally flying straight through the space-time continuum. Yeah, this isn't really calculable. I mean, how can you calculate someone moving so fast that they're literally flying through the concept of time? It just can't be done. So yeah, before I did my research about where Gentildonna scales, I'm totally surprised to figure out that she can be scaled to multiversal with immeasurable speeds. So yeah, she just outright takes the stat advantage over Z Broly. I mean, sure, universal with infinite speeds is nothing to scoff at, but Gentildonna is physically superior and faster than Z Broly. She's gonna have Broly looking like how Goku did at the end of the first movie. I mean, sure, Z Broly does have a few advantages over Gentildonna. I mean, he has better range with his key attacks, and maybe more experience. I don't know, that one's debatable. But yeah, Gentildonna would very easily defeat Z Broly. But what about Super Broly? This version of Broly is a lot different than his Z counterpart. For starters, he's way stronger, and this is actually the canon version of Broly. In the movie, which by the way was absolute cinema, if you haven't watched it, please watch the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. It is amazing. But anyways, Broly was able to not only dog walk Super Saiyan God and Blue Goku, but he was also able to do the same to Super Saiyan God Vegeta. Yes, he did struggle with them at first, but thanks to his adaptation in his Akari form, he was absolutely no diffing them. Now, why is this impressive? Well, in the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, we have the infinite punch clash between Goku and Beerus. This punch clash had so much energy behind it that the Elder Kai stated that if the fight kept going, it was going to destroy the entire universe. Now let's take a quick look at the macrocosm of Universe 7. If you remember what I said earlier, the universe is actually a multiversal structure thanks to it containing multiple infinite universes like the Afterlife and the Kaioshin realm. We know they're infinite in size thanks to the Daizenshu, specifically Daizenshu 4. Now, a lot of people like to argue that the Afterlife is an outerversal structure thanks to it transcending the living world. However, I personally don't believe that to be the case, as there are a lot of anti-feats disproving it, specifically King Kai stating that his planet, which is a part of the Afterlife, has its own gravity, meaning it follows the rules of time and space, even if it's its own, it still has to obey by those laws, making it not an universal structure. However, it would still quantify as a universal structure at the very worst. So this is a multiversal feat outright. And Broly was able to take on a much stronger version of Goku than the one who performed this punch clash. But what's also impressive is that Super Broly had been stated by Akira Toriyama to be the strongest opponent that Goku and gang have ever faced, which includes characters like Jiren, who was strong enough to compete with MUI Goku, and who was also stronger than most gods of destruction, as well as Goku Black, who can cut through reality and entire dimensions by himself. So yeah, Broly is incredibly powerful. However, most impressively was when he was able to go toe-to-toe with Gogeta by himself. Now, Gogeta is a fusion of Goku and Vegeta, and he takes their powers and increases them. So he is like 2, even 10-fold of what Goku and Vegeta are together. And during this fight against Gogeta, the two of them were able to shatter reality and break into an entirely different dimension, which is incredibly powerful. I mean, of course, when Gogeta went blue, Broly got destroyed, but he was still able to take hits from Gogeta Blue, as well as fight Super Saiyan Gogeta pretty easily. Now, this means Broly should get within these multiversal ranges of power, due to upscaling the punch clash between Goku and Beerus, as well as characters like Goku Black and Jiren. Now, what about speed? Well, Broly would still have reasonable arguments to be above the Namek Saga asteroid feat I talked about. However, he would no longer have access to the Afterlife feats because that was non-canon. Instead, we have other feats that can get him higher than these MFTL ranges. This character from Universe 6, his name is Hit. And he has one of the most he gives Goku one of the most controversial speed feats in the entire Dragon Ball franchise. Hit has an ability that allows him to skip forwards in time. Basically time hacks. And Goku, in his fight against Hit in the Universe 6 tournament, was able to just outright break through Hit's time skip. King Kai has stated this to be Goku forcing himself into the future, which would be immeasurable. However, I don't believe that's what's happening here. Whis has stated that Hit's power works on opponents that are weaker than him or on par with him. And he states that since Goku's ki was stronger, he could overpower any sort of hacks inflicted upon him. This is very consistent with other fights within the Dragon Ball franchise. The stronger your ki is, the more likely you're able to overpower abilities and hacks from characters weaker than you. So I don't actually think Goku was indeed forcing himself into the future, and thus would not have these immeasurable speeds. However, there's another highly debated speed feat, and that is the time where Zeno erased the future Trunks' timeline of all space-time reality and existence entirely. Goku and friends were able to exist in this timeline and move around perfectly fine, despite there being no time. Now, this isn't quite immeasurable, but it is inaccessible. The difference between inaccessible and immeasurable is inaccessible speeds are speeds of which a character can move when time is at 0 or non-existent. Immeasurable speeds are when a character can move so fast they can travel through time and other crazy things like that. So this isn't quite immeasurable, but it can still give Goku, and thus Broly, inaccessible speeds. So, there you have it. Super Broly can scale to being multiversal with inaccessible speeds. But now, Super Broly versus Gentildonna. Now this fight is actually interesting. They're both around equal in power, but Gentildonna is still a bit faster. Immeasurable speeds are above and accessible. So it is likely that Gentildonna could potentially speed blitz Broly if she wanted to go for the kill immediately. However, Broly still has the same advantages Z Broly has in terms of having better range with key attacks. However, a new advantage he has that Z Broly didn't was his ability to adapt mid-fight. This is how he was able to overpower Vegeta and Goku, was through his extreme adaptation. So if Gentildonna does not go all out right away and gives Broly time to adapt to her, Broly could pull out the win here. Although he would have to, avoid getting speed blitzed beforehand. So, however way you think this fight plays out, it's still a high extreme diff for whoever wins. You could argue Gentildonna wins because she's much faster and could speed blitz Broly before he can even do anything. Or you could say that Broly wins because of his adaptation and superior range. Either way you put it, it's still a high extreme diff, and I give it to Gentildonna just slightly due to her superior speed. But again, like I said, it could go either way. Now, there's one final version of Broly I want to talk about, and that is Broly from Dragon Ball Heroes. So how does Gentildonna fare against Heroes Broly? She doesn't. She dies almost immediately. This version of Broly is Super Broly on super steroids. Gentildonna is not beating this version of Broly. This version of Broly can be scaled to having complex multiversal to infinite to immeasurable speeds with a far more aggressive fighting style than any other Broly. So, yeah, Gentildonna dies if she tries to fight Heroes Broly. But anyways, to summarize this video, how well does Gentildonna do against the Broly Gauntlet? Well, I think that she no to low diffs Z Broly, high extreme diffs Super Broly, and then gets no diffed by Dragon Ball Heroes Broly. But, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I found it pretty comical that I even thought about this at all, and I definitely liked it a lot better than Gentildonna versus Thrag. I mean, that's only really existing because, well, of that one funny comic on Reddit. And is it Reddit or Twitter? Correct me if I'm wrong. But I did like this a lot better than Gentildonna versus Thrag. But anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this video. And I want to know if you knew Umamusame was this crazy. Anyways, this is Dusty signing off. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.